Well, good afternoon and welcome to the weekly webinar series with the Kentucky Small Business Development Center, or KSBDCs for short. Thank you for joining us today. And for those of you who aren't familiar with our program, let me share a little bit about what we do. I'm Patricia Krausman with the KSBDC office in Elizabethtown, which is one of our 10 centers throughout the Commonwealth that provides services to all 120 counties. Our professional staff has a wide array of knowledge and experience in various industries, and that allows us to offer a customized service for small business needs. We assist entrepreneurs regardless of where they are in the life cycle of their business. So if someone's just starting out, we can assist with market research, business plan development. We can help them with their funding proposals or finding startup capital. For existing businesses, we assist in either growth of a business or development of a business, and that may be at a time when they're hiring their first employees or finding capital to expand operations, or perhaps a look at their business management practices to ensure that that things are at optimum for them in the business. And perhaps businesses need help with cash flow, or they want to pivot their business, and we are there for all of those things. And lastly, if it's time to retire or someone is exiting their business or selling their business, we can guide them through that part as well. We do all of this at no cost to you, thanks to the U.S. Small Business Administration, SBA, that co-sponsors our program. And we are a program that's administered by the University of Kentucky and the College of Agriculture, Food and Environment. And those programs partner with regional universities, community colleges, and local economic development agencies so that we have the resources and tools we need to best meet the needs of our Kentucky communities. We are also a part of a national network, America's SBDC, and that means to you or to others that the SBDC is available to anyone throughout the country in the U.S. If you'd like to learn more about the SBDC and how we want to visit us and look at some of the resources and things we have available, you can certainly do that through our website, kskybizhelp.com. You'll see that on your screen now. And you can give us a call. And once you call our offices, then we will connect you with one of our business coaches so that you have access to a personalized service. So
I hear Patricia.
Hello? I'm sorry. Recording of today's webinar will be emailed to you also. So if you're having trouble with the audio or just need to step away, know that you'll have access to the entire recording. So we're fortunate today to have some others joining us, and I'll tell you a little bit more about our speakers in just a moment. But one of my partners, one of my colleagues, is JC Phelps, and he will be moderating today's events. And he is a business coach, as I said, with the KSBDC. We're fortunate today to have two leaders in the agricultural arena here in Kentucky. Aleda and Warren Beedler are both longstanding collaborative partners with the KSBDC. Their dedication and partnership contribute to the synergy and economic vitality of our Kentucky communities in many ways, but particularly in the agricultural arena. So we want to welcome them today. Our program today is we're going to have presentations from both speakers. And first of all, we're going to start with Aleda. And Aleda Botts is the executive director of the KCARD. And KCARD stands for, I hope I get this right, Aleda, Kentucky Center for Agriculture and Rural Development. And we are very fortunate to have her spending time with us today and telling us a little bit more about her program. So I'm going to turn that over to you, Aleda, at this time.
Great. Well, thank you all so much. Let me get over here and start the presentation. Make sure I hit the right button here. Thank you so much, Patricia. And thank you to the Kentucky Small Business Development Centers, because, I consider them to be a great partner of ours. We do very similar work in some ways, but certainly they are able to tap into a statewide network of business experts. And it's just always great to compare notes with Patricia and others with regards to business planning and what's going on in the world with the businesses that we're working with. So we just so appreciate the partnership that we've got with the Small Business Development Centers. As Patricia said, I'm the executive director for the Kentucky Center for Agriculture and Rural Development, abbreviated KCARD. The joke on that is that KCARD does wonderful services, but it is not an actual card you get, which people have actually asked me about. It's an actual card. No, it is not. We are a nonprofit independent organization. We've been around since 2001, supporting agricultural business development. And so all of the businesses with whom we work are affiliated in some way with agriculture or the agricultural supply chain. And so that goes from individual farmers to groups of farmers, to processors, to farmers markets, to local food buyers, to entities within that agricultural supply chain. If we can connect it to benefiting Kentucky farmers, then we're happy to help provide our services. Most of our services are provided one-on-one. We come to you. I will say that in the era that we're in right now with social distancing, a lot of our work is done over the phone or via email. But we very much like to be in person with you and working directly with you on your agricultural business needs. To give you some idea of the scope, we serve statewide. We've got 9 staff and over 500 different entities engaged with KCARD in 2019. So that gives you some idea of who all or how many folks that we work with. So what is it we do? Well, first and foremost, what we're known for is business planning. We do help businesses plan. Business plans are not documents that you just want to run off as fast as you can and print and just never look at again. Business plans are designed to be documents that help you think through the questions that you need to think through to have successful businesses. And so we work with clients on developing business plans, developing financial projections. We work with businesses on marketing, analyze feasibility. One of the other things that we're known for is figuring out what loans and grants are good fits for agricultural businesses. Agriculture is lucky in that there are a lot of really good grants and financing options out there for people that are engaged in that sector. However, it can be really challenging figuring out which ones are good fits for your business, for your type of business. And so we will try to work with you to figure out which ones are good fits. We try to answer questions, evaluate financials, and then I included in there a whole bunch of other things. And that kind of is the grab bag for all of the different kind of questions that we get and also the ways we try to help people. We do work with businesses on mapping issues. One of the great tools that we've got wonderful people on staff that can work on mapping and looking at where your customers are, where your customers can be, helping with the marketing, looking at tech and website questions, employee issues. We get a lot of questions with regards to employee issues and management questions in general. I tried to identify the top 3 questions that we're getting right now. We get lots of different questions, and I don't want to mention all of the different sectors that we get questions on, but suffice it to say, we never know what's going to walk in the door. But there's 3 that came to mind when we first started talking about this webinar as ones that we're getting more and more questions on right now. And so those are the 3 that I'm going to specifically talk about with regards to some resources and how to think about those. And then you'll have our contact information at the end so that you can follow up. The first one we get a lot of questions about. There are a lot of people that are interested in starting farm or farm businesses. They can be people who either grew up on a farm but left, or they can be people that we're getting a large number of people who are not even from Kentucky, but they come to Kentucky and they want to purchase land to start a farm. That can be a challenging venture if you are starting fresh, if you're starting new. And so I've identified a few things here that we like to walk people through as we work on the business plan that we think are really important questions to ask. One is identifying the enterprises that are good fits. Not everyone, and by enterprises I mean, are we talking cattle, produce, maybe we're talking about sheep, maybe we're talking about flowers, landscape. That's what I mean by enterprises. We want to think about what enterprises are good for you as an individual and everything else you have going on. What's good for the land, because obviously we know that land is a very important factor for considering what is good and not a good fit. And also your finances. Some businesses, some enterprises have higher startup needs than others. And so we try to walk through those things. I myself grew up on a beef, cattle, and produce farm, okay? That's not always a normal combination, because what you need for beef cattle with regards to resources and time commitment of the farmer is much different than what you need for produce. But that's an example of thinking about what enterprises are good fits for your farm. Identifying the resources you need. Production, of course, you always want to think about how you learn how to be a good producer of whatever it is you're thinking about producing. And the first place we go on production issues, of course, is University of Kentucky and the Cooperative Extension System. They've got resources in every county, and they've got wonderful experts that are on site, on campus, that we turn to a lot of times. There are other production resources as well. There's the Center for Crop Diversification, also part of UK. Depending on what type of enterprise you're doing, there's commodity groups that are going to have wonderful trainings that can be helpful for your operation. If you're interested in sheep and goat, the Sheep and Goat Development Office runs a small ruminant profit school. So we're going to think about what resources you need on the production side, and then also on the financial side. What is it you're going to need money-wise to bring about your vision, to bring about your goal? And finally, labor. Labor isn't always an issue with any business, and certainly it is with regards to agricultural businesses. So thinking about labor and thinking about what you need. And then we want to take all of that and put that into a business plan that will help you think through those questions. Final point on the starting a farm. One of the biggest questions we get asked is, where are the grants to buy land? I don't know of any. So I have to mention that, because there's some great financing opportunities out there if you're a beginning farmer or if you want to purchase land. There's some excellent opportunities. I don't know of grants out there, and that's always a question that comes up. All right, one of the other big questions that we're getting a lot now, especially with all of the news reports about the meat supply chain and empty meat counters at Kroger and elsewhere, is what about meat processing? And we get those in different areas, so I've broken them up, and I hope it'll be helpful. If you're a current processor and you're wanting to expand, and what I mean by meat processors, of course, are companies that slaughter animals, process the animals, all right, and some of them sell directly to consumers, and some of them just do custom work. In other words, they're going to have a farmer that is interested in selling halves, quarters of beef, okay, and the consumer of that animal will be the ones paying the processor. So you have several different types of processing questions. If you're a current processor, I have to, and I see Warren's back in, so this is good, Warren and Bill. They'll be up next. But one of the programs that's going to be a great resource is the Kentucky Meat Processing Investment Program. And it's one that is designed specifically to expand capacity of those meat processors. As an example, if you're a farmer right now raising beef cattle, if you called many of the processors in the state, you would get a date for when you could have that animal processed. That date right now is already into fall of 2021. That's how backed up these processors are. So the idea behind this program is, let's expand the capacity, let's see if we can get more animals in, and let's see if we can build infrastructure long term. If you're wanting to start processing, so in other words, we get a lot of calls that say, I want to open up my own processing facility. And many times they're from people that are like seeing the opportunity out there, seeing the demand, and also recognizing, oh my gosh, processors are booking out to next year. There's a huge market opportunity there. Well, please give us a call. We have a lot of great learning resources we can pass along your way so you can learn more about the business. But then also we're going to work through a lot of starter questions that's really going to help you evaluate whether this is the right move for you. The final question with regards to meat processing we're getting a lot right now are cattle producers that have never sold meat from their cattle, and they're wanting to learn how, because they're getting people calling them saying, hey, can I buy some beef from you? I see your cattle in the field. Why can't I buy beef from you? So if you're interested in that, if you hear inquiries like that, feel free to have them get in touch with us. There are requirements. You do have to have meat coming from a USDA inspected facility. It will be labeled as such. There are requirements on that. You do need to think about your market, what your pricing is going to be. You got to develop a plan to do that. It shouldn't be something that you do just because somebody calls, because as anyone in the cattle industry will tell you, that many beef in Kentucky, many animals in Kentucky, many cows in Kentucky are not well suited to be processed into meat as they are right now, right? There's a lot that has to go into them that gives you the meat that you're used to seeing as a consumer. So give us a buzz and we can talk more about that. Final question, how can we expand local food sales? So there's tremendous interest right now in developing stronger connections between a customer that's interested in finding local food in places that are not their grocery store. And a lot of that's because of all of the concerns with regards to people in the grocery store, the longer supply chain to get food to the grocery store, and also this question of it's really great to be able to resource food from places that is not the grocery store. And Kentucky is blessed because we have a wonderful climate to raise a lot of food. So a lot of people are looking at how can we expand those local food sales. One of the things that we mentioned first and foremost is matching production and method to the market. And what we mean by that is that you really want to have some sense of how much you can produce and where it can go and what requirements are considered on the farm to get it there. So for instance, if you're selling produce, meat, whatever, at a local market, such as a farmer's market, the requirements are much different than if you were selling it into Kroger, for instance. And so you really want to think about how much you're producing and how you would get it to that buyer and whether that buyer is able to pay the price that's going to cover those costs of production. A lot of businesses are able to take advantage of what I consider a hyper-localism that's driving demand right now. And we're hearing really great results from a lot of farm businesses that we've worked with for years. So there is opportunity there, but many of those businesses have worked to develop that market over time. So it's challenging for a new entrant to come in and immediately take advantage of it, especially if they're new to farming. Final thing is that I want to mention KCARD has a project, the Local Food Project, and Olivia Vogel on our staff is a resource for farmers that are looking to expand their local sales. And she can help to think about what outlets might be out there and how to pursue those outlets and what requirements those outlets have for that product. Final, Kentucky has excellent resources for agriculture. I just can't say enough about the partners. Production partners, there's a lot of folks out there that are willing to help you produce more from your farm or produce what you need for your market. There's a lot of resources out there. Business development, obviously, you're all going to call us KCARD. SBDC is a wonderful resource as well. Marketing, I've mentioned a few resources there, and I want to highlight Kentucky Department of Ag because they have an excellent resource with Kentucky Proud and the Kentucky Proud grant programs. Financial resources, let me tell you, a lot of the states wish they had some of the really strong financial resources to support agriculture and agricultural businesses that Kentucky has. It really does have a lot. Unfortunately, because it has so many, it can be a little confusing. And so, we really want to try to match what you're doing with the right funding source. And I know that in a few minutes, either Warren or Bill from the Ag Development Board is going to be talking more about this. How do you find the resources? So on the funding side, which is where we get a lot of questions, we do run a listserv where we send out regular emails about what funds are out there. It's also on our website. And we publicize information on our website about all of these different things as questions come up. Finally, if you have any interest in working with us, feel free to reach out. You can check out our website. We've got a lot of resources in there with regards to meat processing, different grant programs, etc. There's our direct line, or there's our main line and our direct line to me, or you're welcome to shoot me an email. And typically what happens is when people contact us, we'll do a real quick needs assessment to figure out what it is that you're going to need based on your goals, because your goals are the ones that matter. And then we'll assign it to the staff member that would be a good fit based on geography, based on who else that staff person's working with, whether they have specialty in your area that you're wanting to do. And the great thing about it is because of the support from the Kentucky Ag Development Board and USDA, all of these services are provided at no cost to you. So feel free to reach out if we can be helpful. And in that note, I kind of close with a brief discussion about funding resources. I think Warren is back on. I'm not sure if Bill is, but I'll turn it back over to Patricia, since you may have a better insight into what's coming next.
Thank you. Well, Aleda, that was fantastic, and we look forward to coming back to you when we have our question and answer section to even talk even more about your services. So thank you for that. I would like to remind everyone that's on the program today that we do have the opportunity for you to ask questions and to interact with our panel that we will be offering at the end of the program. So to do that, you'll just type those questions into the chat room, and JC Phelps will be helping you with that if you have specific questions. So next on our program, we are fortunate today to have two members of the Governor's Office of Ag Policy with us today. And first of all is Warren Beeler, who's the Executive Director. And Warren has been with the program for quite a while now, and certainly has a rich history of agricultural support, and his career as far as in agriculture. And so we'll start with Warren, but I also want to introduce Bill McCloskey, who is the Deputy Executive Director of the Governor's Office of Ag Policy as well. So Warren, I'm going to turn that over to you and allow you to share some information with us today.
Well, thank you very much. My internet is not cooperating today, so I've drafted Bill to take over, but we're very appreciative of what you all do, and including us in this webinar. Bill, if you take over, and then I'm going to try to listen. Hope I can stay on. We have lots of opportunity and lots of help from our office, and so that's what Bill's going to talk about. Go ahead, Bill.
Bill, I don't think we are hearing your audio.
Bill, you got to unmute.
There should be an option for you to turn your audio on.
I think I just clicked onto it. Is it on?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be part of the program. And Patricia Krausman and I go back a few years. Matter of fact, it was January of 2000. I got the opportunity to work with Small Business Development Center there in E-Town. And I think, Patricia, little did we know I'd have the opportunity to come to Frankfort and work in the Governor's Office of Ag Policy, and had good fortune of being able to do that for 20 years now. And our office was established to administer the tobacco money that the state receives under the Master Settlement Agreement. And living in Kentucky is one more good reason to be fortunate here in Kentucky relative to the rest of the United States, because there's only two other states that utilize their tobacco money. It's Tennessee and North Carolina. And over the 19 years that I've been part of this program, over $600 million has been invested in projects. And if Warren was talking, he'd say that's over $500 million in projects that have been funded with the tobacco funds, and through the foresight of 5 governors now in General Assembly, several General Assemblies have committed a portion of this money to help our tobacco farmers transition into other enterprises. And I think Warren would say we've been very fortunate and been and fairly successful at doing that. Tobacco production is a small part of our agricultural commodity, thanks to the investment of the tobacco funds. And so what we've been able to do is invest a lot of this money in different programs and projects. This past year, the tobacco payment was $112 million for Kentucky. Of that, $34 million was allocated to our office. And our mission is, again, to oversee these tobacco funds and provide financial assistance for our Kentucky farm families to help them and aid them in improving their net farm income. So some of the projects or programs that we want to talk about today, and Aleda mentioned some of them. So for the county funds of the $34 million, $14 million is committed to the counties, allocated to the counties based on tobacco history. And about 85% of that county money gets invested in the county agriculture investment program, or as we know is the CAPE program. That's a cost share program administered locally. The cost shares on different items on the farm, like cattle handling equipment. It can be greenhouse production. It can be improvements on farm structures, infrastructure on the farm, are some of the examples. Again, most of it, almost 85% of the county money is invested in the program across the state. We have a youth agriculture investment program. This program was designed to help youth get involved in livestock production or showing livestock. Next is our Next Generation Farmer program. This is a program the Ag Development Board has supported as another program at the county level to help beginning farmers. And so counties have the option to commit a portion of that $14 million to target beginning farmers in their community. We also provide county money, and even the state money. I mentioned the $20 million. $20 million gives the Ag Development Board the opportunity to really target out different projects or sectors of the ag industry here in Kentucky. Aleda mentioned that earlier on the meat process improvement program. This is an initiative that the staff and the board had just rolled out here in a relatively short time as a way to take advantage of this, new phenomena here where the meat processors are experiencing unprecedented demand from consumers to buy local. And then, of course, as Aleda mentioned, Kentucky farmers trying to market their livestock directly to consumers. So to be able to coordinate and connect consumer with the farmer, you have to have a processor. And we've got several here across the state. And if you talk to any of them today, they say they run at capacity. And so the program that we designed working with the Ag Development Board was to provide financial incentives to help them increase their capacity. We structure it in three different levels. Level one is a processor can access up to $20,000 to help them overcome cost overrun or overtime cost, or add on additional labor to increase their capacity to process more animals. Level two, a processor can request up to $37,500 for a purchase of equipment that might help a bottleneck that they'd have at their operation, so they can apply up to 75% of the project cost, again, $37,500. And then in level three, this is a operation can request funds for equipment or make capital improvements that would allow them to increase their capacity building at the processing facility. So we rolled this all out in a matter of weeks, and we have already received 4 applications that we'll be considering over the next week as far as making funds available for expansion. And again, giving producers opportunity to process more animals and sell directly to consumers. Aleda mentioned several different entities, organizations that have all been able to utilize our fund. Again, one thing we've been fortunate in Kentucky is to have the commitment of our elected officials to continue and commit. In this case for this year, $34 million that we can make available on a cost share basis for different programs. Some other programs I wanted to mention, in addition to the CAPE program, is we have an on-farm energy program. Farmers making improvements on their farm that results in any kind of energy savings. They can access state funds up to half the cost at a maximum of $10,000. We see this program utilized by poultry producers making upgrades in fans, heating systems, or insulation. We also have a program that's fairly new. It's the on-farm water program. Again, a producer can access up to half the cost for a project, or $10,000, if they're developing a on-farm water source. The objective is to reduce the dependence on municipality water sources. So that's up to $10,000, and we're in our second year of offering that program as well. And over the 19 years, we've been able to develop our a capital access program. We call it, it's under the authority of the Kentucky Agricultural Finance Corporation. We've been able to grow that program in the last 15 years to now $95 million in low interest loans that we can offer across the state, specifically the Beginning Farmer program. Our Beginning Farmer loan program is a priority of the Ag Development Board and the Kentucky Ag Finance Corporation. Under the Beginning Farmer program, a beginning farmer working with their local lender can access half the cost of the project up to $250,000 at an interest rate of 2.75. The loan can be utilized to purchase equipment, buy a farm, or buy into a family farm. And we're all about, with all our programs, and even Aleda mentioned this, about collaborating. We like to collaborate with all the different organizations across the state. And with regards to our loan program, we're doing the same, take the same position in collaborating with the ag lenders across the state. So the way we set up the loan programs, a participation arrangement, the lender makes a request on behalf of a borrower, or a beginning farmer makes a request to provide financing, partnering with the lender at the low interest, and the lender provides the finance on an interim basis when the project's complete, and then we wire the money to the lender at 2%, and they add on 0.75%. So that program, as I mentioned, in 15 years, we've gone from zero to $94 million in funds available, and there's been a lot of interest in Western Kentucky. We're seeing poultry operations continue to expand, so a lot of opportunities for beginning farmers in that part of the state to utilize the program. And finally, just wrap up, and we've got our contact information here on this last slide. And Warren, if you need to get a hold of Warren, his number is on here as well. If you go to our website, you'll see that the rest of our co-workers all have direct phone numbers you can contact as well relating to the specific program. So I'm going to wrap up there and see if Warren has anything he wants to add to the program.
Bill, all I'd say is all our programs are designed around farmer impact and interested in making a farmer a dollar. And so we've really been blessed over the years to have that they've left this money alone. And I'd say I always do tell the story, $626 million invested, and we've grown agriculture by $2 billion since the money showed up. And that's on a market that's terrible. So you can imagine if we could get prices decent, just what we've done. Agriculture has benefited from the ag development, tobacco settlement money. Ag development funds have been amazing. I'll hush and we'll listen for questions. If I can stop this slideshow. There you are.
All right. Well, thank you both. That was very interesting and informative. And we again welcome our partners, the Kentucky Center the Kentucky Center for Agricultural and Rural Development and the Governor's Office of Ag Policy. So with that, J.C. Phelps is with us today with the SBDC, and he's going to share some of our questions that we've gotten. And I want to remind everyone that's live, and you can certainly continue to do that. And J.C., what do you have for us today?
Sure. Thank you, Patricia. I am excited to be here with you all this afternoon. As she said, my name is J.C. Phelps, and I'm a business coach with the South Central office of the Kentucky Small Business Development Center. I have a couple of questions that we've received offline. I also have one from the comment section. So if you think of any, please feel free to drop them and I will communicate. And to Aleda and Warren and Bill, feel free to comment on the questions as you see fit. If you all have something to contribute, please feel free. Otherwise, if one is specifically geared to you, feel free to just solo respond as well. But the first question we got is from David. And in his situation, he has a lot of food being consumed by state institutional markets. He thinks that if a significant portion of these goods would be purchased from local Kentucky farms, the impact would be a win-win for farmers, for the Kentucky economy, and also for consumers. And so he is curious as to how he can make this happen in his organization in a substantial way. How can he source these from Kentucky farms and the resources needed for that?
Well, I'll jump in. Warren, feel free to pipe in. Hi, David. So I think it's a real challenge getting into some of those state institutional markets, as I'm sure you're aware. I think we have to meet the requirement that we do have farmers that are in some of those markets. They are meeting the requirements of those buyers. But as you know, sometimes those buyers, unless they feel that there is demand from their customer base, then it's very hard to get them to change their purchasing because they already have contracts with existing food service providers. So it is challenging. I think we're making some headway on it, but I'd be lying if I thought that it is one that is an easy door to crack open, because I don't think it is. And the farmers that we have getting into those markets are ones typically that have been around for a while, and they are able to make the investments that are necessary to meet all of the requirements with regards to GAP or other certifications. So, Warren,
I think, Aleda, I think there's a price point with those institutional groups that they have to meet to a certain degree. And that kind of probably makes the produce thing a little more attractive than it does on the meat side, since our processing is extremely high as such. But in a perfect world, we'd have all locally grown and keep those dollars turning here in Kentucky. But that you're exactly right. It's got to be consumer driven to a certain degree in terms of those companies that have the contracts with the big institutions to play. Wish they would. I nothing like better than to turn those dollars over in Kentucky.
Thank you all for those responses. Another really interesting one that we received offline and that we also hear a lot about with clients at the SBDC is in regard to the industrial hemp industry. So a question is, are there any financial incentives or programs available to produce industrial hemp products, or for farmers wanting to re-enter the hemp market as is historic here in our state?
Lady, you want me to go?
Feel free.
We have Ag Development Board has funded one in each of the product areas. Of the three we funded, two are no longer in existence. We did one in grain, one in fiber, one in CBD. We had some projects come forward and have wanted us to reevaluate our hemp guidelines. We went back to the committee. The committee decided not to make any changes. We would, however, move them over and do loans, but our loans, as Bill said, are participating loans. And so you have to bring a lender with you. And still, I think the banking industry and a lot of those folks are still a little hesitant. Hemp's got a future. There's no question. It's the most versatile crop. It's the most interesting crop. You can make anything and everything out of it, from health foods to medication to all kinds of anything you make out of plastic or fiber or steel, you can make out of hemp. So we've got a little shaking out to do, but I do believe it's got a future. But we're at the Ag Development Board, we're pretty much on the sidelines right now until we kind of see how things are going to be and where the market is. And the biggest issue with us is that farmers haven't got paid. And that's an issue that we can't go down that road until we can kind of figure that out. And a little blunt, but that's fact.
I appreciate that. Sometimes fact is blunt, but that's great information to pass along. Another question that we received offline that is relevant to some of our clients is in regards to aquaculture products. And so in referencing that, are there any resources that either of you could point to these farmers or potential clients where they could either access information or assistance? And an example would be whether they wanted to produce produce or maybe even say tilapia for school systems or restaurants, something of that nature. Aleda, I think you're muted.
I thought I hit the button. Sorry. Well, what I was saying was brilliant, but no. So sorry about that. So we work with a number of different operations that are aquaculture related, either hydroponics, where you are producing both a produce item, greens or something like that, and the fish, or strictly aquaculture where you're just producing the fish. We work with a number of them. Obviously, we'd be happy to work with them on a business plan and thinking about what resources they're going to need. Typically, you have a fair amount of startup costs associated with whatever system you're putting in place for those fish. Certainly with hydroponics, that the cost goes up with regards to all of the other pieces of that system that you're putting in place. There are resources out there for aquaponics, both financing and some grants, not specific to aquaponics or aquaculture, but certainly because it is an agricultural enterprise. So if people are interested, they can reach back out to us, and we'd be happy to work with them.
I would tell you the first thing I'd do is send you the KCARD, and in terms of that part of it, we just put in some solar panels, our energy program for West Kentucky aquaponics in the city of Benton, growing lettuce on one end and tilapia on the other end, and very, very successful. So, and you're talking about year-round production, and with the solar panels, they don't even have electric bill. So it's very doable. I mean, I think when I think of fish, I think of KSU and all the research they done. Well, they're as good as we've got anywhere in the country. And when we talk about the aquaponics, hydroponic type deal, I mean, there's just lots of people out there that can help you.
Thanks for that info. It certainly is a really interesting business model and such a unique take on agriculture. Pivoting from there, I'll sort of lump these two questions together. I know, Aleda, in your presentation, you talked about there not really being grant opportunities for the purchase of land. But two questions that we do have is, one, is there any grant funding available for people wanting to produce honey, where that is a vital part of their ecosystem with the bees? And also, two, are there any grants still being awarded for greenhouses?
So first off, with regards to startup grants, generally they are few and far between. Most grants, there's some wonderful grants in Kentucky. KSU Small Farmer Grant is one that a lot of our producers tap into. It is a less than $5,000 grant. It's also funded through Warren's money, the Ag Development Board money. It's a great grant, but you have to demonstrate that you are a producer before being eligible for the grant. So what does that mean? Well, the federal government considers the definition of farmer to be having annual revenue of $1,000. So you typically have to crack that threshold before these grant programs are going to consider you to be a producer. And so that's something to keep in mind for most of these grant programs. And that's one reason why it's really challenging for some of these enterprises, such as honey, because you are going to have to demonstrate that level of sales before you're going to be eligible for many of these grants. On the greenhouses side, now within the Ag Development Board, Warren, I'll turn this over to you because I know you all have put money into the school greenhouse programs. The high tunnels through NRCS, that was, a lot of people consider those greenhouses, so I want to make sure I include that. Many people have received cost share money from the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources Conservation Service for high tunnels. Those are different than greenhouses, the difference being that greenhouses have an external energy source, some other energy source besides just the sun. That program is still in existence, and that program has funded a tremendous number of high tunnels in Kentucky. But with that, I'll shut up. Warren, I'll turn it over to you for the greenhouse piece.
I mean, the only greenhouses we put grant money in have been at schools, and that's been county money primarily. What we would do is we would send you over to Ag Finance, and we would be able to do half the project with a low interest loan type deal. on the honey side, we have funded the Kentucky Beekeepers Association, a part-time state exec. We also funded some research on viruses for those beehives. We've also funded the queen bee. The problem with the bees is the mites. And so we've got some research going there and funded those groups. So we've got some money, and there's money in there to promote this Kentucky Certified Honey program. And so that's where I would go. I would go check there in terms of being able to promote your program. But as far as grants from us straight out for an individual, the state money wouldn't be eligible because that's multiple county, multiple producer. I would go to a KSU. I would also, if you're in the eastern part of Kentucky, I'd look at Kentucky Highlands. They do up to $7,500 in a 1% loan with basic interest only the first year. A great way to get started. KSU's mini grants are basically no match. So it's a great way to get started. And that's probably the closest thing we've got to a potential grant for part of a greenhouse.
Piggybacking off that same question, Kentucky Highlands is a great partner and someone we work with at the SBDC. It's a great resource for that area of the state. But in referencing the KSU program, similar that you all both mentioned, a question came in from Tanya regarding, again, to hemp production and products. Is hemp, do they qualify for the same smaller financing options through Kentucky Highlands and KSU, or is that an excluded industry?
Well, hemp projects are eligible for financing under the Kentucky Ag Finance Corporation. Small projects, I'd have to look and see if they're eligible for KSU grant. I can't remember. But for financing, hemp projects are eligible for financing. I'm just not sure about the KSU grant piece. Maureen, you may know the answer to that. Sorry.
I don't know that I don't know that they are. I don't know that they're not. In our situation, county money and state money for grants would not be eligible right now. Only loans.
That's it's so nice to have both resources here to bounce us off, because there's so many technicalities. So I appreciate your forthrightness. Going back to things that individuals can do. A follow-up question from David in regards to the institutional markets. He kind of wants to know what someone in that position could do. So could a citizen contact the governor, or what would be the best way to do that to, try to lobby or to share this position? How would you recommend a citizen go about that?
Lots can get done. Basically in Frankfurt, it's the louder you get, the more you get done sometimes. And so, there's lots of things that can be done. We've had laws who were passed that basically said schools needed to buy local, and they did for a while, and they didn't for a while. And so it's anything's doable. Anything's doable, in terms of making it work. But you gotta go ask, and then you probably got to follow through the legislators as well.
That's true. I like that response, Warren, and so often that's the way that things do get done. That's all of the questions that I currently have in the chat box, and the ones that I have received offline. If you want to give just a little bit more time, as we're nearing the hour mark for them to come in, if either you, Aleda, or Bill, or Warren have something that you would like to add that you maybe didn't have in your original presentation, I'll do that. But I also will answer Anthony's question while I'm talking. There will be a way to review the first part of the webinar if you are only here to join us for the beginning portion or sometime in the middle, or you would like to access this great information. A recording will be sent out to the same email that you registered for this webinar with. So you'll be getting an email sometime before end of day, and you can access all of this then. But otherwise, I will open it back up to you all, or if we're time to close, I'll open it to my colleague, Patricia. Thank you all for the great questions and facilitating the convo. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, JC, and certainly Aleda and Bill and Warren for that. Did you all, JC mentioned that perhaps you had some things that you want to add or things that you've thought of as we're speaking, so I'll give you the opportunity to do that before we close today.
I think the only thing I would say is that, as you can probably tell from the answers to some of these questions, there's a lot of if, then, but this. And we understand that can be very frustrating. But you're welcome to reach out to us and talk to us individually so that we can learn more about the situation and try to figure out the answers. And if we don't know the answer, then we'll try to connect you with somebody who does.
Thank you.
On our side, Patricia, we're basically we know that this virus thing and got us on Zoom and everything else has really exposed our weaknesses in agriculture a little bit, particularly on the processing side. So we're pretty convinced that what we need to do in agriculture is get beyond the trailer gate, and that's basically what we're doing with KCARD. This local food movement, people have figured out there's a difference between eating out of the can and eating out of the garden, and it's the same in meats as it is everything. And so we've got to, farmers can do such a great job and farm and then just do it perfect and get it to the end of the trailer gate, and tariffs come up or virus comes up or we can't get them processed, and it's worth nothing. We have to figure out how to help farmers create their own value and put a number on that product. We're open to suggestions. We're old enough at GOAP to figure out if we're old enough to know we don't know everything. And so we're open to suggestions. We'd love to hear what you've got to say. We'd love to figure out ways to help farmers by tweaking our programs. We're very proud of KCARD. KCARD is exactly where we send every entrepreneur that walks in the door, because they'll look you in the eye and give you third-party advice. And so you don't have to take it, but you basically got to understand that sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And to hear that before you spend money is money well spent for us. So really an interesting program where agriculture is so exciting and so fun and so changing every day that we have to jump on board and figure out how to take this tobacco settlement money that we have and how we grow agriculture in the right ways in terms of helping farmers make a dollar.
Well, thank you, and I agree. One of the things that we've seen throughout this, the COVID-19 response and situation, is that it's identified some perhaps inefficiencies or things that we can look to improve in the future. So it gives all of us an opportunity to look at our programs and pivot and see how we can best address the needs of small business, and particularly our agriculture community, as we move forward. So thank you all for this today. It was a wealth of knowledge. I've learned some things, and I know that everyone else has as well. I want to remind our viewers that the slides will be coming to you. You'll be able to have access to that and to the handouts, and you have contact information for both of these partners who can provide stellar support to you and your communities, and we want to thank you for that. So with that, unless someone else has something they would like to add, then we will end our program today and look forward to the next session, our Wednesday webinar series. Thank you all.
Thank you.